Hey everyone, I'm Liam, and welcome to Trend Talk Media, where we unpack the biggest trending stories making waves right now.
And I'm Sophie. Today we're digging into a story I absolutely did not see coming. We're talking about how a nearly 40-year-old sci-fi franchise basically appeared out of nowhere to save the weekend box office.
It's a pretty wild story, especially when you realize just how much trouble movie theaters have been in lately.
Okay, so to really get why this is such a huge deal, we have to start with this number. This is the quarterly loss for AMC, which is the biggest theater chain in the country.
Whoa. Okay, almost $300 million in the red. That's a massive, terrible number.
Exactly. And it really paints a grim picture for the entire industry. They have been seriously bleeding money.
The autumn doldrums. Yeah, that sounds about right. It honestly feels like there hasn't been a big must-see movie in forever. You're not just imagining it. The data totally backs you up. Last month was the lowest grossing October at the box office in nearly 30 years. 30 years? Okay, so theaters were absolutely desperate for a hit. Literally anything to get people back in those seats.
And that is exactly where our unlikely hero comes into play. Right out of this slump, we get the 8th movie in the Predator franchise, Predator: Badlands.
I have to be honest, if you'd asked me what movie would save Hollywood, another Predator movie would not have been on my list.
Well, and that's the thing. This wasn't just another sequel. The whole premise is a complete shakeup for the series.
Hold on, an outcast predator teams up with an android played by Elle Fanning? Okay, yeah, that is definitely not the old Arnold Schwarzenegger formula. That actually sounds pretty cool.
It's a totally fresh take, and that novelty was a huge, huge part of its appeal. And even before we talk about the money, just look at the reception. Critics loved it, giving it an 85% on Rotten Tomatoes.
And an A cinema score from audiences. Wow. Getting critics and regular moviegoers to agree like that is so rare. That's always a super strong sign that a movie is really working.
So now let's get into the money, because the numbers themselves are really impressive.
Okay, here we go. This is the part that the studios actually care about. How did this unlikely savior really do?
It pulled in a massive $80 million worldwide, just on its opening weekend.
80 million? Where did that all come from?
It was a perfect 50-50 split. 40 million right here in North America, and another 40 million from overseas. Just a huge result that blew past all expectations.
And to put that 40 million domestic number into perspective, this was the single biggest opening weekend in the entire 38-year history of the Predator franchise.
No way. It even beat Alien vs. Predator? That movie felt like a massive cultural event back in 2004. So this new one is officially the king of the franchise.
And it's also a huge sigh of relief for Disney, which owns the studio that made it. This big win helped push them over the $4 billion mark for the year.
I bet. After some recent disappointments they've had, I'm sure they are thrilled with their new Predator.
Okay, so here's where the story gets even more fascinating. Because while Predator was having this incredible weekend, a whole bunch of other new movies with huge stars were just crashing and burning.
Ooh, this is the juicy part. So it wasn't just a great weekend for one movie, it was a genuinely terrible weekend for a lot of others?
A terrible weekend. I mean, just look at this chart. You've got Predator way up top at 40 million, and the next best new movie is all the way down at 4.5 million.
Oh my gosh. And look at Die My Love, 2.8 million. And it had Jennifer Lawrence and Robert Pattinson. And the movie with Sydney Sweeney only made 1.3 million? That's a total bloodbath.
It's just the perfect example that just sticking a few A-list names on a poster is not a guarantee of success anymore.
A D+? Yikes. So for Die My Love, it seems like people showed up for the stars and then walked out absolutely hating the movie.
That's pretty much exactly what happened. A D+ grade is a flat-out disaster. It just goes to show you can have two of the biggest stars in the world, but if the audience hates the film, it is dead on arrival.
Which brings us to the big question, right? What was the magic formula here? Why did this one movie succeed so spectacularly while all the others just failed?
Exactly. What's the lesson that Hollywood should be taking away from this?
Well, it really seems to boil down to these 4 key things. First, you start with a familiar brand people already know and love, Predator. That gives you a built-in audience.
Right, but it can't just be nostalgia. So step 2 is critical. They gave it a genuinely fresh twist that got people curious. It wasn't just the same old thing, which I think everyone is sick of.
Totally. Then you add in the strong reviews from critics, which gives it credibility, and you top it all off with fantastic word of mouth from the audience, which is basically the best marketing you can get. That was the winning combo.
So the big takeaway here is that you can't just slap some famous faces on a poster and expect it to sell anymore. The promise of a star just isn't enough to get people to open their wallets.
Exactly. This weekend really proved that a good story told in a creative way is what people are actually hungry for. Quality and a fresh idea, even inside an old franchise, still matter. Maybe now more than ever.
At the end of the day, the success of Predator: Badlands might have just given studios a very clear roadmap for how to get out of this slump. Which leaves us with a really interesting question for the future of Hollywood. Is this what we should all expect now? Old franchises being brought back but with genuinely new and creative twists? Let us know what you think down in the comments. Thanks for watching Trend Talk Media, and if you like this breakdown, definitely be sure to hit that subscribe button for more.